So we're going to do a quick video on how to open up Eclipse and how to create our first Java project. So in our live class we would have talked through the programs you need to download. So I said the Java JDK needs to download first, and you install that. Then we need to install Eclipse. So again, the notes are up on how to install Eclipse. You follow the installation instructions and launch the program, and you'll be brought to this screen here. Okay, now the first thing we need to do when we work with Eclipse is to choose a directory as a workspace. So in other words, where are our files going to go? Now if you're working on a laptop, you can use a kind of your desktop, or you can plug in a USB key if you want, but I'm just going to, in this particular example, use the desktop. So I'm just going to browse. I'm going to choose desktop. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Java. Okay, so I'm going to use this as my workspace. Okay, now we'll talk more about workspaces in live classes, but just choose whatever location you want. It doesn't have to be a desktop, but choose a location that you'll remember, obviously. And when I do that, it loads up the Eclipse interface. But this is the workspace. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time digitally this year in this Java Eclipse environment. Okay, and in some of our live classes I'm going to be talking to you a little bit more about what this is and what it does. But just to kind of follow up on our class, I'm going to talk you through the basic anatomy of a Java project. So the first thing we need to do is we need to choose create a Java project over here on the left hand side. And I'm going to call this my first Java project. The project name, obviously, when we kind of get into larger programs, will relate to the specific application that we're building. So for instance, if I'm building some kind of student registration system, the project would be called Student Registration System. I'm going to just choose finished. I could choose next, but with all of the defaults are fine, and we won't talk through them just yet. So I'm just going to choose finish, and at this point it asks me, do I want to create a module? Now I definitely don't want you to create a module, so choose don't create. And when I do that, we have on the left hand side under my package explorer my first Java project. There's a little arrow you see to the left of my project name, and there's my source folder. So I'll be talking a little bit more about what this does in a minute. And we're going to create our first class to go inside of this folder. I'm going to choose File, New, and Class. And this is going to be our first bit of coding. Okay, so I'm going to call this Hello World. Okay, I'm going to type it like that, lowercase h and capital W. Choose Finish. So here we can see our screen. Public class hello world, and then we have an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. Everything in Java has what's called a scope. Okay, so where does this class begin and end? And we use these little brackets to signify where this project begins and ends. So we also have something called comments. Okay, and I'm going to put in a // okay. And // means that this is a comment, so in other words it's not code. I'm just able to write a little note, and the compiler will ignore that note. So I'm going to just put up here beginning of my class, end of my class. So I'm going for what's something called next line declaration. So what next line declaration means is that my bracket is on the next line. Generally speaking, most Java programs are end line declaration, but from my experience, more people get their head around this quicker if we go to next line declaration. And just to explain the difference, that's end line declaration, where the bracket is on the same line, or the end of the line, as our command. And then if I bring it back down here, that's next line. Now the reason why is because we can line our beginning and end up at when people are learning programming for the first time. So from an anatomy of a program point of view, I'm going to put in another comment, and this time I'm going to put in a /* and I'm going to hit enter. Now this is what's called a block comment. So this // is a single line comment. So if I was to type anything below, it won't be a comment. But anything inside of here will be treated as a comment. So this is all comments. Okay, so it's called a block comment. Okay, so a couple of little rules. Okay, a program is a set of instructions. Okay. 2, in terms of the anatomy of a Java application, we must define a class. Okay, in this case it's called Hello World. We won't worry about the public bit just yet. We will talk about that in future classes. And then we must set the scope of the class, i.e. where does it begin and end. We use brackets to determine, actually I'll put curly brackets, the beginning and end. Class. Okay. So we're using these curly brackets. Okay, and then finally we can use either end line declaration or next line declaration. For the moment, we will use next line declaration. Okay, so some little notes up here. So program is a set of instructions, that's all it is, and this is going to be a very simple one. In this video I'm just going to stop at this point, but I'm not even going to put in the main method, just going to focus on the class. The anatomy of Java application, we must define a class. So we're kind of talking about how programs are structured. There has to be a class. We must set the scope of the class. Where does it begin and end? Okay, and we use curly brackets to signify this, and I can either put the first curly bracket on the next line or at the end of the line. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just going to hit save up here, and I'm going to finish this video. Sign up for the full course on Eventbrite. Passcode -java-course.eventbrite.ie.